Welcome to Devotionary, where we make the Bible accessible and applicable. Forgetfulness can be frustrating. The inability to recall a name or to remember an important piece of information can create a sense of vulnerability and weakness. It's as if we can't fully depend upon ourselves. We can't trust our mind to come through for us when we need it most. But just think how God feels when His people forget Him. When His people fail to remember all that He has done for them and begin to take Him for granted. That's the worry Moses had concerning the people of Israel. So in Deuteronomy 6, verses 10 through 19, we have him warning the Israelites about the danger of forgetfulness. He wasn't worried that they would forget an important date or the names of their children. He was afraid they would fail to remember God and all that He had done on their behalf. Forgetfulness would lead to faithfulness, and that would be dangerous. And when the Lord your God brings you into the land that He swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give you, with great and good cities that you did not build, and houses full of all good things that you did not fill, and cisterns that you did not dig, and vineyards and olive trees that you did not plant, and when you eat and are full, then take care lest you forget the Lord, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. It is the Lord your God you shall fear. Him you shall serve, and by His name you shall swear. You shall not go after other gods, the gods of the peoples who are around you. For the Lord your God in your midst is a jealous God, lest the anger of the Lord your God be kindled against you, and He destroy you from off the face of the earth. You shall not put the Lord your God to the test, as you tested Him at Massah. You shall diligently keep the commandments of the Lord your God, and His testimonies and His statutes, which He has commanded you. And you shall do what is right and good in the sight of the Lord, that it may go well with you, and that you may go in and take possession of the good land that the Lord swore to give to your fathers, by thrusting out all your enemies from before you, as the Lord has promised. Deuteronomy 6, verses 10 through 19. After nearly half a century of leading the people of Israel, Moses knew them well. He was painfully familiar with all their character flaws and their predisposition toward sin. You can sense his father-like approach in preparing them for the fast-approaching day when they would enter the land of promise, and he tried his best to help them understand just what they were about to experience. As with any significant life event, there was much about the conquering of the land of Canaan that was unknown to the Israelites. While God had repeatedly promised them the land and had assured them that He would go before them, fighting on their behalf against their enemies, they had no idea what any of that was going to look or feel like. And no doubt, they had all kinds of fears and apprehensions. So Moses tried to set their minds at ease by focusing on the good news. He told them about the positive outcome of their crossing over the Jordan and taking possession of the land. Moses fast forwards and describes a land with large, prosperous cities that you did not build. The houses will be richly stocked with goods you did not produce. You will draw water from cisterns you did not dig, and you will eat from vineyards and olive trees you did not plant. Deuteronomy 6, verses 10 through 11. Moses wanted them to know that God was about to bless them in ways they couldn't even begin to understand. The picture he painted for them was designed to remind them that God was going to meet all their needs, and He was going to do so in spectacular fashion. They were going to find themselves enjoying the comfort and shelter of houses they had not built, located within the walls of cities they had not constructed. They would eat food they had not planted or harvested, from fields and orchards they had not cultivated. They would even slack their thirst by drinking water from cisterns they had not dug. It was as if they were going to win the lottery. Almost instantaneously, they would find themselves transformed from a wandering nation of vagabonds and nomadic shepherds, living in tents, to a nation of prosperous landowners. And it would all be the work of God Almighty. But Moses knew the danger they faced. This virtual overnight metamorphosis would prove to be dangerous if they failed to remember the one who had made it all possible. That's why Moses warned them, "When you have eaten your fill in this land, be careful not to forget the Lord, who rescued you from slavery in the land of Egypt." Deuteronomy 6, verses 11 through 12. Moses knew that they were going to be tempted to forget God. Man's natural tendency is to focus on the gift, while neglecting to show gratitude for the one who made the gift possible. He fully realized that the people of Israel faced the very real prospect of becoming fat and happy, and at the same time, forgetful and ungrateful. Their physical prosperity would anesthetize them to the spiritual reality of God and His goodness. Their lack of need would make their dependence upon God unnecessary. When they suddenly found themselves surrounded by an abundance of material things, they would have no need for God. But Moses knew the danger they faced if they allowed God's blessings to lull them into a sense of contentment and complacency. So he reminded them, "You must fear the Lord your God and serve him. When you take an oath, you must use only his name." Deuteronomy 6, verse 13. Their prosperousness could easily lead to forgetfulness. They could find themselves substituting the worship of God with an unhealthy obsession with the blessings of God. The gifts could take precedence over the giver. And when that happens, it isn't long before the forgetfulness of God results in an attraction to false gods. Which is why Moses warned them, "You must not worship any of the gods of neighboring nations, for the Lord your God, who lives among you, is a jealous God." Deuteronomy 6, verses 14 through 15. If they allowed themselves to forget God, the next time they had a need, they would be susceptible to seeking help from any and every other god. Forgetfulness is one of the greatest enemies of faithfulness. Failing to remember all that God has done can easily result in a failure to worship him for who he is, our all-powerful provider, protector, and praiseworthy God. Moses charged the people of Israel to always be mindful of God and faithfully obedient to God. They were not to allow his many blessings to lull them into a state of complacency. He was a holy God who demanded obedience to his laws and who would not tolerate unfaithfulness to his covenant. The people of Israel were his chosen possession, and they were to live with that reality in mind. And Moses left nothing to their imaginations, spelling out in black and white terms just what they would need to do if they wanted to enjoy the blessings of God and the ongoing benefits of the presence of God. Do what is right and good in the Lord's sight, so all will go well with you. Then you will enter and occupy the good land that the Lord swore to give your ancestors. You will drive out all the enemies living in the land, just as the Lord said you would. Deuteronomy 6, verses 18 through 19.